Well, hello then, I do hope you're all well. Now in this final Transport Committee meeting video, did these obnoxious Tory MPs prove how crooked they really are? Well, what I mean is, in this final clip, Christian Wakeford, no, this isn't Christian Wakeford, this is Chris Loder. We'll get to that cretin later on. Christian Wakeford is Labour MP for Bury South. Yes, that Christian Wakeford, if you know what I mean. Basically asked about the current situation with the current negotiations. When both Mick, Whelan and Eddie Dempsey had finished their replies, Huw Merriman, the chair of the committee, interjected to say something rather interesting.
Time to open it up to other members. Should we start with you, Christian Wakeford?
Thank you, Chair. Question to, I guess, both witnesses to begin with, which would be, from your perspective, how have the negotiations actually been conducted thus far? I mean, obviously, we hear a lot in the press, and obviously we've heard a lot in the chamber, but from your perspective, how have they actually been going so far?
May I? Thank you. It's an interesting question. I believe that the employers that we work for have been quite disingenuous and dishonourable in the fact that they, to keep their profits and maintain their opportunities within the railway industry, signed up to contracts with the DFT, allowing the DFT and the Secretary of State to determine what percentage of wages we got and what we couldn't talk about. We've got free collective bargaining. We do not work for the DFT, we do not work for the Treasury, and we do not work as public sector workers at this moment in time because the primary legislation of GBR doesn't exist yet. So what we have is that we walk into a room and all we get from the employers is we can only offer you 2% unless it's funded. We're saying that's not acceptable to us at this moment in time. And then they say, well, the government won't let us do anything else. And then we get statements from the government saying we're not getting involved in the negotiations. I would love somebody to assist me in this catch-22 situation, that we could have some sort of realistic dialogue, whether it would achieve anything or not, but it would break the dilemma that we're in.
From that perspective, it sounds very much like the companies blaming government, government blaming the companies, and
the workers being caught in the middle and being demonised for then standing up for their rights.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. I mean, it's a shame Grant Shapps hasn't been called here to answer some questions about this, because the people on the other side of the table that we're dealing with are telling us they regard themselves as brokers and not negotiators, that they've got a mandate that they have to refresh. They often have to leave the room to go and have conversations with their ministerial people before they can continue discussions with us. So, as Mick has put it, we're in a room with people and not making the decisions. That makes it extremely difficult to get towards a settlement.
I should just say for the record, we decided as a committee not to have any politicians in this session because we wanted to keep the politics out of it, actually. So whilst I take your point, we were actually trying to do it from a more grown-up perspective. But Christian, sorry.
I'll try to turn down my next question then, Chair.
Which is fair enough if you want to keep politics out of it, Huw Merriman. Yes, said it right this time. What a bell tap. But unfortunately, Huw, politics is involved in this situation because of your Transport Secretary, Sebastian Fox, or whatever he likes to call himself these days. But if that's how you want to play it, why did you allow this right honourable friend of yours, for West Dorset, Chris Loder, to get away with this line of questioning, if you wanted it to remain grown up? Oh, also, watch how the atmosphere between the members and the witnesses is totally different, i.e. the witnesses are the real bosses, so to speak.
I just have two final fairly short questions. You'll hear both of the early panel members use the word scab. I've never heard anyone in the train operating management world use that term.
Liar.
Do you believe that when that term is used, employees who are involved with this are subject in some way to intimidation, or can be as a result of that behaviour?
They can be, and it is unacceptable, and both as train operating companies and Network Rail, we have quite clear policies in place of where we find any form of intimidation. We have seen it through other disputes of where we will take action against individuals should there be any behaviours like that.
I'll ask Tim this question in just a minute as well, but could you just tell us the extent of which you may see intimidation during strike action as a result of a dispute?
So there is, in some cases, there is verbal, face-to-face, a lot of social media intimidation has been put out, and, if you pardon this pun, but writing on the bathroom wall. type behaviour as well. You know, in mess rooms, people writing discriminatory things against individuals.
Do we still see physical?
Less so now. We haven't, certainly not in the train operating companies that I'm aware of, have we seen any physical assaults or anything like that at this moment in time. Verbal, yes, but not physical that I'm aware of.
Thank you.
I can imagine if it had said yes, that Tory MP would have absolutely blown his juices in his pants, wouldn't he?
Tim, could I just ask you that question as well?
Yeah, and I think this is a really unacceptable thing, isn't it? You've actually heard from all the trade unions that and from Steve that the negotiations have been carried out in a dignified way. I think that's essential. We must carry ourselves like that. We've made that point really clear ahead of the strikes that whilst there might be difference of opinions, we have to respect one another and for individual views. But sadly, yes, there were examples of either on picket lines, individuals getting carried away, getting too excited, getting too rowdy with people that were coming into work. And on one occasion, I'm particularly aware of one of my senior managers was abused by strikers. Bizarrely, and a week later, they apologised.
Is that verbal abuse?
Yeah. But very, very, very powerful verbal abuse. That same striker then a few days later then apologised to that individual, which doesn't make it okay, but it does illustrate just how some of the challenges that people have been faced with. But there have been examples of some practices of people doing things that are completely unacceptable, and I think we've got to make sure that actually where Mick Whelan was coming from in terms of scabs and what have you, that's not at all helpful in terms of how we're going to take this industry forward.
Could I just ask, I'll come to you, Steve, on this in a minute, do you accept scab as a term that is acceptable to be used in your organisation?
I'll do it in my...
Can I ask you first that one, sorry?
No, I don't. I think it's got no place for respectful dialogue.
Would someone likely be subject to disciplinary measures if they intimidated someone using that?
If we have evidence that someone's been intimidated, then exhausted.
Steve, I just asked you those fine.
In our eyes, it's an unacceptable terminology to be used against another individual, and we would take disciplinary action.
And last one, and then I'm handing back, ticket offices. You heard me ask the RMT about what they had to say about ticket offices a little while ago. After a little bit of...
Huw Merriman, why didn't you interject and say, we're not going to go down that route, Chris. We're having a grown-up conversation, and I don't think this will help because the unions are not here to defend themselves. Some of the examples of the verbal abuse, I just thought they were just hilariously funny. I just think, well, what do you expect from people struggling to put food on the table, preparing to sacrifice a day's wage in pursuit for a fairer pay? Are going to act towards people who sacrifice nothing, but will be quite happy to pick up the pay rise that these people won on the picket line. A big hug and a sloppy kiss. Well, and also, Chris Loder, stop pretending to be a paragon of virtue. You're in a party that's full of rapists, perverts, and a wretched hive of villainy and scum. So save the pathetic pearl clutching, mate. But all the way through that meeting, it was like a proper loving, like having a few beers with mates on a Friday night. It was, Jesus Christ, it conclusively proved for me that never trust a Tory. I think we should get somebody to put T-shirts with, Liz Truss with a wide mouth and a teenage look like she's giggling like a vacuous teenager, whatever, underneath saying, never trust a Tory. Probably make a killing. But anyway, I do hope you enjoyed these videos, and till the next time I shall bid you farewell and take care.